Welcome back to another live stream, everybody. Bitcoin is once again volatile as hell, so I wanted to go over some of my thoughts on the market, some levels I'm interested in, take a look at some Stuber Fib scalping strategies, some of my favorite indicators, and so on. I'm going to start on my lower time frame chart here while we wait for people to join and get settled and all that sort of good stuff. But first and most importantly, how are we all doing today? Everyone's surviving this market volatility. And also, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, make sure I'm not talking to myself here, that'd be great. Hopefully you guys can hear me clearly and see my charts and everything. But yeah, how are we all doing? How are you guys all doing with this volatility? Does anyone have any strong opinions one way or the other? I'm going to be looking at a few different potential scenarios for Bitcoin. I've actually been quite bearish on this trend since I think it was June 13th when I finally made a video calling it something like the Bitcoin chart nobody wants to see. And that did in fact become a reality. And it's been playing out basically step by step since I made a wild prediction there. So that's a little bit concerning because of my end targets with that, but I'll get into all that later. On a more positive note, I mean, as traders, as active traders, this volatility is an absolute blessing. It's awesome. It's fun. It's not all that unpredictable as long as you are taking profits on your positions as you're running. If you're hoping to hit that home run trade because you're sure that all-time highs are right around the corner, you're probably getting wrecked recently. And honestly, I am more of a scalper myself. I do typically trade the 1 minute and the 5 minute, mostly the 1 minute recently, but I still have an overall view of the market. I'm still looking at the weekly, the daily, the 4 hour, the hourly, all of that stuff to get a better idea of which bias I should be trading with, basically. And I've been quite bearish recently. I'm in a short from this morning around 61.2K, this blue dashed line here. I'll go into that in a second as well. But yeah, let me know how you're all feeling on the market. Excessively bullish? Do you think all-time highs are around the corner? Do you think we're going to absolutely nuke from here? I have a couple of different theories. I personally think that we are going to go a little bit lower fairly soon, but that does not have to happen. And I only have half my short still open at this point, right, guys? Because as more of a scalper myself, I always treat, when I enter a position, I basically treat it as a scalp. As soon as I start seeing weakness in my position or anything like that, I start taking profits. And I always like to leave some run, though. I never close my entire position. I'm always open to the idea of catching a nice running position, but especially when things are volatile like this. And I do generally use higher leverage just to keep my invalidation levels tight and that sort of thing. I generally trade the shorter time frames, nice tight invalidation levels. And like I said, I'm de-risking quickly. I'm very quickly taking partial profits on my positions. And from there, hoping to catch a runner. Because if you're always just swinging for home run trades, just like swinging for all-time highs for the last several months, it can be dangerous, right? Yeah, it's great when that one trade does happen once in a while, but you got to be able to survive the market. And part of surviving the market is taking profits along the way. So that's where I'm always a fan of just paying myself a little bit as we go, paying my fees quickly, and then just kind of getting rid of risk, updating stop losses quickly and that sort of thing. First of all, just looking at the 1 minute chart here. We've had a nice little bounce here. And as well, just kind of looking at my indicators, something that did catch my eye is that we started seeing these bright green candles. So that's actually my trend dynamic indicator. And that is the gradient one color. And I have my candles inverted. So on the way down, I want to see when I should be buying. So not necessarily just taking an entry, but in this case, taking a little bit of profit. So I was taking nibbles there. And but I'm not bullish yet. That's the thing, is I am totally fine. You know what? My stop loss is just in a small profit on the rest of my position. I'm totally fine if that happens because I have paid myself on this position already. I was basically taking profits, basically, I think it was somewhere halfway down this nuke. And then as we got this little double bottom here, I also de-risked a little bit. And, that's just, that's a part of trading. Like I said, as a scalper, I like to take profits quickly. And I mean, this drop did happen quickly, but it calmed down relatively quickly as well, right? So that's where I I'm glad at this point now that I have paid myself some, I don't have to worry, right? A lot of people just looking for that home run trade would not be considering taking any profits yet, because even myself, right, I'm expecting lower prices, but I have to still take profits along the way because I want to make money even if I'm wrong. Even if we don't go down to 52K, I will make I will make plenty of profits off of this position that I'm in because I already have. If we do get that bigger move, I already have take profit orders set down near those levels. I think it's closer to 52.5 is where I have my next take profit set. And obviously, I have a couple different things going on right now. One is if we break above this range here. So if we break right out above this local high that we have here, I'm going to consider that, hey, maybe it's possible that we do get a climb up higher and maybe even stop out the rest of my position in a small profit. But if that happens, I'm totally fine with it. I have a trigger order above this as well for part of my position. I have, like I said, an order down near 52.5K in case we go that way. Basically, I am going to take more profits one way or the other on this position. So basically, my reasoning for this position is a combination of a couple of different things. One thing that I have talked about many times on this channel is pulling Fibonacci's off of this auto charting tool, off of the signals that I get from this indicator here. And I actually had it on the 4 hour, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. I just don't want to show that quite yet. I want to stay on this chart here. I'm going to turn those off for now, but just make a side note of that. I'm going to come back to that. But basically, these green lines here are some Fibonacci's on a bigger time frame pulled off of a signal on the 4 hour. So then basically what I'm looking for is weakness around that level, right? Because like I said, I don't generally trade with low leverage, big swing trades. I like to have those nice tighter invalidation levels. So I wanted to see how we react with this level. I wasn't setting blind orders near this Fibonacci to catch a short, but I did set an alert that notified me when we got near this 786 on the way up. And then I wanted to see what happened with structure. And as you can see here, let me just turn off these beautiful colors here. So basically looking at this, it really zoomed in structure here, but very important to understand. So basically we had this high, we had a higher high. And after that, we confirmed this as our higher low. Then we get another higher high, confirmed higher low, another higher high, confirmed higher low. And this red line here is where I was considering structure to be broken just on the very immediate 1 minute micro analyzing, whatever. This is just the first higher low that I saw that we were breaking. And that's after testing a Fibonacci on a longer time frame that I was interested in. So that's why I ended up taking this short. I had no idea it was going to run this far, but you can see that we did come to this green Fibonacci down here, which again, I'm going to show you on the 4 hour in a minute, but we did in fact reach that target. And that's just basically a very typical strategy that I show on this channel, on my own YouTube channel, all that sort of stuff. Basically, again, just bringing up the auto charting tools here and pulling a Fibonacci from here. And to go with that is this yellow line here. We lost this little bit of structure here, right? I'm actually going to move this up to the candle bodies because that's actually, sorry. Here, let me turn off these colors. I confused myself there. So basically just looking at how I was looking at the 1 minute there, right? So technically, and again, this is very micro analyzing. This is just analyzing the very immediate swing, the very immediate rally. Basically, we get a break above this level. This is just confirming as a little bit of a support level. We drop that level, and this is where people generally want to FOMO into a short, but they end up getting into it too late and they end up getting wrecked, and then they get bullish at resistance. That's very normal. Because everybody loves to play a breakout trade because they don't want to wait. Especially in crypto trading, we're very impatient. We don't have a lot of experience, or generally a lot of us don't have a lot of experience in other markets. And, typically speaking, after a structure break, a pullback is totally normal. And that's where I look for those Fibonacci's and stuff like that. So just breaking down how the structure of this little rally went. We also got this lower high signal with my auto charting tools here. And strategy I've been showing with that recently is just pulling a Fibonacci from there. So where basically from this lower high signal down to where we bottomed out after breaking that structure there. and then I'm looking for a pullback to the 786, 886 fib pocket. I often refer to these as the Stuber fibs because they're my favorite, and I like throwing my name in things. But yeah, basically we came up to that 786 absolutely perfectly. So that's basically why it was on my radar. And again, any one of my streams on this channel prior, I've talked about this strategy a lot on shorter time frames, but really like looking for those on longer time frames as well. And then again, just zooming in from there. But so basically, as it stands right now, I do want to acknowledge that it's very possible Bitcoin does find support here, right? We did reach my range target. That's the 214 fib here. Basically, the opposite 786 is how that works. Notice my 786 is just below that level, and that's exactly where we're finding support so far. That's basically why it's my range target. If I'm willing to enter a position at that fib generally, even though I don't have a bullish structure break in my favor right now, I'm still, that's just a buy level to me. So if I'm in a short, I'm looking at taking some partial profits on that. So that is my range target, right? We got that pullback to the 786. We got 2 tests of it, and then we nuked right down to that range target. So one of my favorite strategies in trading. Yes, usually I'm trading it on the 5 minute and the 1 minute, but I still look at it on larger time frames like this. Here's where things get interesting. If we end up blasting through this resistance, now remember, resistance is resistance until it's broken. Hasn't happened yet, but if we do end up breaking this level, this yellow box, basically, I think we're still going to have a lot of resistance up ahead. Because if I really zoom out here, well, I'm going to go into my total outlook here in a second, but I am just going to erase. Actually, I'll keep that up. But that's basically my thoughts of why I think, maybe we are starting to find a little bit of resistance right now. I just want to hop back to the 1 minute, just make sure I'm not missing anything. No, nothing yet. One thing I do want to touch on very quickly before I move ahead, going over some things I'm looking at on the 4 hour and the weekly, is just looking at the 1 minute here. We had this low back here, and we obviously set a lower low. The highest point between the two is right here. So that's basically what I'm looking at as far as, basically the bulls need to reclaim that. That's the thing. I know a lot of people, as soon as we get some sort of a bounce like this, yeah, you know what? It's good to see. But as far as being bullish, we have not even broken a lower high on the 1 minute chart. Okay. That's still that's still $500 away from now to even break that level. I will consider flipping short-term bullish if, if the chart does something like this. Let's say we do end up breaking this level. Again, I'm not really interested in playing that breakout, but if we happen to get a pullback, to at that point, I'm just kind of eyeballing it here, but I'm assuming that's very close to a 786. Yeah, you just start to eyeball these after a while. But I'd be looking at that sort of a bullish entry, whereas a lot of people would start getting bearish again. But I'm looking at it as, hey, maybe we did break some structure here. At that point, I would consider at least hedging along. Even if I'm still in my short position at that time, I would consider at least opening some sort of a hedge to the long side, just in case that is a bullish structure break. But we don't have that yet, so it's still premature to call that. So that's kind of how I'm looking at market structure, right? Low, lower low, highest point between the two would be my lower high. And that brings me to my next chart here. Hopping over to this right here. Yeah, so here's my 4 hour chart, you guys. And basically, just to go over my overall market outlook currently, harsh truth, you guys, there's not one thing in this chart suggesting an all-time high breakout is around the corner yet. Day one technical analysis lessons would suggest that we currently have a series of lower lows and lower highs. It's a downtrend, if you will. So now let me ask you a question. If you had or actually all news, all fundamentals, all emotions aside, if you saw this chart with zero knowledge about the asset, what would you do? Would you be extremely bullish on this chart, or are you just holding that bullishness because you believe in Bitcoin so much and you love the fundamentals and There's constantly things, bullish fundamentals are constantly being improved upon with Bitcoin. So I totally understand that. I love Bitcoin, you guys. I don't want to sound like I'm a perma bear on Bitcoin by any means, but I'm just looking at this, like I said, day one market structure stuff. You set a lower low, a pullback is totally normal. Everybody gets super bullish as we trade into resistance again. And something that's interesting with this resistance is, where we topped out here. So I was actually warning about this on my Twitter that, a lot of people are going to try and play the Bitcoin chart based on news and fundamentals and things that are happening. And specifically, the two things that I thought would be perfect sell the news events would be one, when Trump was speaking at the Bitcoin conference. And that was an absolute top. We topped out, I think it was like an hour before or something like that. But, I remember so many people getting so bullish at this level. And that's totally normal because people love getting bullish at resistance because there's always bullish fundamentals supporting why we got to that resistance. But nobody's acknowledging that, hey, we have resistance here. And, as I had mentioned, pulling those Stuber fibs. Here's how powerful these are, you guys, just to really like show you why I love these fib levels so much and why, waiting for retraces is so valuable in this market, even though it sucks to have that patience and all that sort of thing. So basically just using a Fibonacci, let's just pull, here we had a great buyback, where we dipped and it just got bought right back up. Very beautiful pivotal point there. But what happens after we break that level? Yes, a bunch of people start getting very bearish at this level, but the downside already happened. We swept the lows and then a retrace is totally normal. Where does that retrace end? Let's just pull a Fibonacci. Well, would you look at that? It's the 786, 886 fib pocket absolutely perfectly. From the lower low, we set another lower low. We bounce. Everybody gets bullish again. Where is everyone getting bullish? Let's pull a Fibonacci again. Where do we end up finding resistance? Right as Trump's about to speak and everyone starts FOMOing into the market, right at that 786, 886 Fibonacci pocket. So this is just why, I love those fib pockets. And that's one reason why I think that we could still go a little bit higher. Is once again, we've set another lower low. When we had this absolute nuke, was that about a week and a half ago or whatever? I remember on this channel when we were trading up at these levels, I was calling for a drop down towards 58K. And I remember that's only here, you guys, or about here. I remember not just on this channel, but across Twitter, my own YouTube channel, everywhere. So many people were saying, Stu, I appreciate your analysis, but you're wrong for whatever reasons, the Trump speaking and all that sort of stuff. And we absolutely nuked. We blew way past my target. My target was 58K. We hit 49K. So that just goes to show how powerful those, when you get a structure break followed by that pullback, resistance is resistance until it's broken. And right now we have the same thing up at these levels. Now, something to consider is that eventually trends break, right? So I'm totally open to the idea that eventually we do see some sort of a structure break, but it hasn't happened yet. And in fact, I'm starting to see weakness a little bit early because, like I said, my auto charting tools is printing a lower high. I still don't consider that a lower high until we actually set another lower low. In that case, I would consider this a lower high, but that's just how I look at it versus how the indicator is calculating it. But still, I love using those points as those Fibonacci pulls. And again, just showing how beautifully that worked out here as well. So very powerful strategy, you guys. So that's basically my thoughts on the market. I'm totally open to the idea of us, breaking through resistance and smashing through all-time highs. You know what? Great. As soon as the trend suggests that, I will be all on board for it. But as it stands right now, we just have lower low, lower low, lower high. That's all there is to it. One thing to consider as well with this chart, you guys, is that although yes, more upside up to these levels is absolutely possible. But after we've had so many lower low structure breaks, is it possible that bearish Stuber targets start getting front run? The sellers start stepping into the market a little bit quicker. Time will tell. But I personally like playing charts for the structure that is currently present rather than assuming the chart is going to look a different way, a week down the road. And I'm going to play it bullishly right now, even though it's bearish, because I think a breakout is coming. That's not how reading charts works, in my opinion. I personally like to play what's already there. And what's there right now is a series of lower lows and lower highs, unfortunately. If we all of a sudden, what I would love to see, you guys, what I would absolutely love to see from a bullish perspective is to set a lower low, but then start seeing much tighter lower lows come into play, because then we have a significantly tighter lower high. So as soon as we can break that kind of a structure, that's where I can start getting bullish again, right? But as it stands right now, invalidation is way up here. It sucks, but that's what it is. The chart doesn't always give us what we want. And that's where the invalidation is right now. So I would personally prefer us to break structure a couple times to the downside, get a nice tight bullish setup, and then try and play some sort of a pullback from there. Because the market doesn't need to go, it doesn't need to break out anytime soon. That goes for the upside and the downside. I have some crazy downside targets as well, but if those even get hit, there's a big if there. A lot has to line up for that to happen. I'm not married to that idea. But even if we get to some of those levels I'm going to show you in a little bit, I think it'll take months. It's not going to be, in the next couple of days, if it doesn't happen, Stu was wrong. No, I'm thinking more like it's more of a long-term play. I'm talking about the weekly chart. And, again, talking about those Stuber fib setups, unfortunately, this does not look good for the bulls. We just, even on a weekly chart, we're setting lower lows. Yes, this is just a wick, so take it for what it is. Maybe this is just a liquidity grab. Maybe we have bottomed, right? That's the thing. The markets, they don't give a shit about my opinion or what I think. They're going to do what they're going to do. But being this is a weekly, that wick does carry a little more weight than, a shorter time frame, for example. So as it stands, I'm still looking at that as a lower low. And again, I've already showed you the different Stuber fibs pulled after we had all these structure breaks, but the weekly works the same, right? And something to consider is when I pull a fib like that, look, obviously we got that structure break. We pulled right up to the 786, 886 fib pocket, got rejected, right? The thing is, my original target was here, that 60.2K, that 214 fib, that is my range target. Unfortunately, when I'm playing this on smaller time frames, like the 1 minute, the 5 minute, stuff like that, after I hit my range target, I start targeting the swing target. And for me, the swing target is the full retrace 786, 886. And unfortunately, for people who want to be permanent bullish, that's way down here. Now, you guys, full disclosure, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I would not say it's probable, but I want you to understand that it is absolutely possible. The world is in a very interesting place. There's a lot of war going on. There's, a very significant election in the works. There's a lot going on. And, we have seen Black Swan events where people said we could not see those 786, 886 fib levels again. And look what happened. I mean, sure, this was COVID. That was a different time. That was totally a Black Swan event. But what I'm saying is it's absolutely possible. We don't know what's going to happen, right? So I always approach the market with an open mind, and I just play it swing by swing, and whatever way we go, I really don't care. Bitcoin can go all the way down, retrace this entire bull market. I honestly do not care, because as I see it, I'm an actual trader. I will trade to the downside. I've been playing the bearish side of things very well the last couple of months here. And that's just how I feel about the market. I have zero. I have honestly, I can't remember the last time I have felt this calm in the market. I have literally zero FOMO about trying to catch an all-time high breakout. I want to be very clear about this. I have not sold all my crypto. Okay. I want to be very clear about this. A lot of people are saying, oh, Stu, you're going to get wrecked. You're going to miss the whole cycle, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm just trading to the downside right now. I sold between 10 and 15% of my portfolio up at about 68 to 69,000 because I saw potential for this big downside movement. But you know what? I don't care. If we end up breaking those levels, we invalidate those, we get back above 70K, I can buy back a very, very small amount less back and just consider it a lost trade, right? I can guarantee you a lot of people who are stuck in all-time high mindsets are taking significantly bigger losses than what I would by playing it that way, right? So that's just something to consider, right? I still have most of my spot holdings. I just decided to pay myself a little bit because you know what? I've been bullish since the end of 2022. Right after the FTX collapse happened, I was fairly certain that was actually the bottom. I thought that was our capitulation event when we started getting up towards 18,000 and stuff like that. I was very bullish at these levels. A lot of people, like in the MDX ALGO community, a lot of those people will remember I was getting very bullish at these levels. And I was getting a lot of flack for that. I was calling for 48K as a target. We ended up testing it perfectly up here, got that little pullback with the ETF approval. And then we just continued on to the upside. So I have been a moon boy for years, you guys, right? If I was buying down here and I sell 10 to 15% of my portfolio here, I am not upset. I am not upset by that way of handling the markets. So, when I see people say, you're bearish, you're going to get wrecked because you're going to miss it. No, that's not how this is going at all. But yeah, as it stands right now, I can't be overly bullish. Like I said, we've reached my range target here because again, that 4-hour fib pull, the test from the 786 down to that 214, that was basically my main target. The thing is, and the reason why I'm calling for potentially 52K is because like what I just talked about on the weekly chart with looking for the range target first, which we've already hit. Now I'm going to be looking for the swing target. So that's where I'm looking from, where we actually found bottom on that Nuka a week and a half ago, pulling that Fibonacci. And that's where I'm starting to target levels, all the way down here. I don't know. We might bounce around before that happens. It might not happen at all, right? And that's why I've already paid myself with half the position on the way down to my first target. So I have nothing to worry about, but I absolutely have some sell orders down here as well. So that's basically my reason why I think we can go down to those levels. Another thing on the hourly chart that I noticed, let me just delete a couple things here. What I noticed on the RSI actually really caught my attention here because you'll notice on the weekly chart, I had it mapped out. Where the RSI goes from, it's not so much just that it's overbought at these levels, it's the type of divergence we get, right? We go from extremely overbought, we target basically the same levels, basically a double top. And then from there, but we approach that double top with significantly less strength, right? The RSI, relative strength index. So we're coming at it with significantly less strength and we end up dumping, break structure, come back up, even test this trend line. That's the thing. Even the RSI is respecting technical analysis right now where, we have a beautiful downtrend. So, I mean, obviously that can change at any time, but as it stands right now, just nothing has broken, right? So I'm just hanging on to my midterm bearish bias right now. I'm very bullish on crypto as a whole. I just understand, and you know what? I've been through more than one market cycle. I've been through two previous bear markets. I understand that, so far Bitcoin has really only pulled back since I got my signal here, 30%. The last several times it's played out, those moves have been significantly bigger. This was the next smallest one here, and I think it was around a 50% correction. So it's a very powerful reversal signal. And what we have on the 1 hour is basically the same thing, right? As we pulled back, as we got that structure break, pull back to the 786 fib, notice what the RSI did from where we started our fib pull, which would have been right here, down to where we tested the 786 right here. Just notice that same divergence, right? From extremely overbought conditions down to, we're approaching that Stuber fib with significantly less strength. So just a beautiful confirmation there. Just another reason why I was bearish, basically. Again, we might start finding support now, but I'm still not going to be bullish on this trend, basically. That's not to say that I haven't been trading the upside a little bit. I have been taking the odd scalp to the upside, but I'm much less interested in trying to find a running position to the upside. I'm more get in, get out, or only get into a long. Usually the longs I've been taking recently are just a hedge. Like I'm already in a nice short, and then just to cover myself, more of an insurance play, just taking a smaller long just in case, there's a big Stu fib pull that comes up or something. Like that's where I'm looking for that bigger pullback towards 52K. If we get this pullback, I will be, like I said, taking some more profits off my short, but I will also be looking to ladder into a little bit of a hedge long at these levels as well. If it gets stopped out, great. My short continues running. But if we get that bullish reversal, because that is one of my favorite bullish plays to take, then I'm covered that way as well, right? So that's kind of my thoughts with that. Let's hop back to the 1 minute here. Actually, I want to go back to the 4 hour. I want to bring up some of my indicators here. Like I said, we had the auto charting tools. So our last signal printed was a lower high signal. It is a lagging indicator, so we might actually see a higher low come into play here. In which case we'd be finding support right around that Stu fib right now if it is pulled, but it doesn't always happen in time. The charts don't always give us what we want. That's trading. That's the life we live. But as it stands right now, this is our last signal, and lower low and lower high. So there's a bit of a trend there with that indicator. Trend dynamics showing everything nice and beautifully. One thing I wanted to bring up was liquidations, actually, and this is another reason why I think we could go a little bit higher, is because all these yellow lines here are actually, let me erase my yellow stuff just to make it cleaner. All these yellow lines, these are high leverage liquidation levels, and you can see that this red box, that's that bigger Stu fib box, right? And there is some liquidity trapped up there. For people who were shorting into the market a little bit late. There is that liquidity up there that the market maker may want to grab. This is one of the MDX ALGO indicators. This is the liquidations tool. So I actually have it set to only show me the high leverage liquidity or liquidation levels, just because they're easier to hit. They're easier for the market maker to push the price to, easier to liquidate people with higher leverage, basically, right? And then as well, we can change this to, rather than levels like this, we can also change it to bands. So let's just see. Yeah, basically right now you can see we came up. This almost works like a bit of a moving average, right? But it's just showing where the average of liquidations are with high leverage here with that bright orange. And you can see we basically came up, grabbed that liquidity, and we're just seeing it as resistance again. So just another little bit of confluence there for the bearish scenario there. The trend master indicator, we got a bearish divergence, a new sell signal, and I don't typically take every sell signal on its own. I don't take every buy signal on its own. What I really like to use this indicator for is noticing which way things are trending, and from there, just compiling basically different points of why I want to be in a position. So just adding a little bit of confidence to my plays, right? And something interesting here is that we have this sell and we have a lower sell signal, right? So just showing that we may have a bit of a trend there. One of the newest updates, you can see these little P's here. These are potential pivotal points. So even the fact that we ended up losing this one, just again, just another little bit of a bearish sign to me. So I just can't help but feel we're going to go a little bit lower yet. Yeah, guys, if these indicators, the MDX ALGO indicators do interest you, there's a link down below that gives an additional 10% discount on top of current promotions at the checkout. So honestly, these are the only indicators I've really used for the last 2 years, other than the RSI, because I have my own strategies I use with those. But I've been using these indicators religiously for the last 2 years and absolutely love them. So yeah, if that is something that interests you, you want to give it a try. Like I said, link down below for that. Yeah, what else do we have here? Let's actually check some of the shorter time frames, see what some of the indicators are saying right now. Trend dynamic. Fuck, I just love how this makes my charts look. Um, that's one of the most important things, is having a nice chart, right? Trend master, you can see that, oh, the buy signals are starting to trend to the upside here. We have a bullish pivot here. I myself, when I look at trading, I always like to look at market structure first. And from there, I like to use indicators as basically a second opinion, right? And right now, we kind of have conflicting stories, because we have lower sell signals, but we have higher buy signals. So yeah, things are a little bit conflicting right now. So I'm not even going to consider it. Auto charting tools, we did get a little bit of a higher low right here. But again, I'm personally not considering it a higher low yet, because of that structure break that we had, right? Lower low, lower low, lower high. So really, for me right now, that's where the structure lies. That's I know the indicator says higher high, because it's obviously zooming in. Basically, it's going even more degenerate than I am, which I love. But yeah, basically, that's my lower high structure that I'm looking at, and this would be my current lower low structure. So between my yellow lines here, this is actually the range that I'm interested in right now. If we break out of this range and we're closing candle bodies above it, then yeah, like I said, I'm going to actually start taking some more profits off of my short if we end up breaking that. Currently, one of my trigger stop losses is up above this structure here. I might actually tighten that up a little. Actually, I'm just going to wait and see if we actually get candle bodies closing above. Then I'll just manually do it and change my orders. That's the thing, guys. When I'm trading shorter time frames, it's way more important to react than to predict. So many people can predict what's going to happen in the markets, what the overall trend is going to be, because it's actually not that hard to see which way a market is trending. But that execution is the very hard thing to do, and having a strategy to actually get you into those entries safely with tight invalidations and stuff like that. That's why I personally love Fibonacci's, because it's so structured for me. It really takes the guessing game out. Yes, absolutely. They do not play out every time, right? No matter how good a trading strategy is, it's not going to work every single time. But the important thing with losing trades is being able to cut your losses, having proper invalidation levels. Just having controlled losses when you have them, not just liquidating your entire account, kind of a thing, right? I still, I gotta catch up on some messages here. I've said most of what I want to on the longer time frames. I'm basically just gonna kind of babysit my position for a little bit, have some indicators up. I've kind of went over why I'm in this short position from earlier today, anyways. If we happen to get some good volatility and we end up breaking some structure, then yeah, I'll consider swinging at some kind of a hedge long if we got that sort of a structure break. But unfortunately, we don't have that yet. But that's kind of what I'm looking for right now if I was going to hedge something. Oh, right on. I see we're have a good audience here. Hey guys, if you do appreciate my outlooks, my strategies, all that sort of stuff, just, approaching the market with a level head, because I know in these volatile times, it can get pretty wild and it can really screw with your emotions. So hopefully, as I explain things and showing you just how market structure isn't doing anything crazy, it's actually acting very well. The fact that we have market structure acting so well is actually, it's a huge relief for me. Honestly, I totally understand why we've seen these big reactions. Like I showed with my Fibonacci's, right? It was just basic structure break, pullback, structure break, pullback. Very, very common to be ready for that kind of a thing off nothing but literally day one technical analysis. Structure break, pullback is totally normal. There was not an opposite structure break, right? The lower highs were not taken out. So if it was, if you were taking a very early technical analysis course, basic structure, resistance, lower lows, lower highs, that's all very basic stuff. But unfortunately, these markets get under our skin so bad that it makes it really easy to blind the very the very simple stuff, right? It makes it very easy to overcomplicate these markets. But honestly, I've just had such a level head by being able to zoom out, look at it for what it is. And that's basically what it is, right? Stocks up slightly. I haven't really followed many stocks recently. Tesla's kind of the only one that I've kept my eye on. MicroStrategy a little bit. You're with me. Think it dumps sooner than later. Again, guys, like I do think that we see these levels down here, but if we do end up seeing, setting some sort of a nice bounce off that 786, 886 level. If we have a nice big bullish RSI divergence or something, which we're kind of aiming for, right? I absolutely see the reason why we could get a nice bounce there. And maybe that is it, right? Maybe at that point we set a higher low, although it would be unconfirmed until breaking structure, in my opinion. But just to see some sort of a massive RSI divergence, something like that, as we test down into that pocket, I would absolutely be swinging at a hedge long, if nothing else. And honestly, if it gets stopped out, I don't care, because I'm planning on being in a short, trying to catch a running position on the short side anyways. But I absolutely see reason for that. Just like back here, we had the exact same setup back here. And even though I was bearish, right, I made it very clear when we set this lower low that I was bearish, but I also ended up playing this damn near perfectly because of that exact setup, right? We were basically coming back to a 786, 886 fib pullback. When I really zoom in there, just once again, exactly why I love those fibs so much, because look how accurate that was. But also that massive, oversold, beautiful, bullish divergence as we came and tested that level. So yeah, I was bullish at that point, and I was targeting $68,000 to $70,000, and that was for no reason other than just looking for my next fib pull, right? And it played out absolutely beautifully. So yeah, those fibs, they're just so structured, and if you can keep emotions out of it, honestly, guys, I go out of my way to avoid the news when it revolves around crypto. Even those FOMC meetings, unemployment numbers, all that sort of stuff. I pay attention to when those events happen so that I can pump the brakes on my trading and understand things are about to get wild for a few hours. But then I wait for the markets to calm down a little bit. Then I start trading. I'm not trying to trade the actual news that's happening, because the truth is, guys, if you think it's easier to play crypto and trading off of the news rather than charts, the world economy is far more complex than some colorful lines on a chart. Let's put it that way. So basically, I understand that I may misunderstand something, or I may not understand how things are going to affect the market, or maybe the market maker doesn't care and he's going to use logic against us. Basically at the end of the day, the charts will break structure if that news is going to impact things. And I go out of my way to avoid everything. The Trump speeches, the Elon speeches, all of it, I purposely avoid listening to any of that, because I think that I'm just like everybody else. I have emotions just like everybody else. If I hear something that sounds too good to be true, I might start getting FOMO. And if I just avoid it completely, I'll let the charts tell me if it matters or not. The SPX, I would consider taking a look at the SPX in a little bit here. What happens to BTC price if Middle East war starts? In my opinion, that's where we start seeing my swing targets. And I know that everyone thinks that this is absolutely freaking ridiculous and there's no way we see those levels again. Anything is possible. The markets don't care how we feel about that. If we get a big black swan event and war in the Middle East, I would consider, one of those black swan events. I absolutely think we end up hitting some of those targets down there. That being said, just like COVID, I think it would be bought up very quickly. Okay. That's one thing I want to be very clear about. If we end up seeing some of those levels, basically, if we end up dropping some serious support like this range back here, for example, that would be kind of around that 42 down to 40,000, somewhere in there. Basically, if we lose support of this range, I am going to be just setting limit buys throughout this pocket, basically, hoping to catch some sort of a quick wick down there. I don't think, a lot of people would wait until we see those levels. They'd wait for that strong bounce and, then start thinking, oh, it's bullish now. I honestly think that if it's anything like what happened with COVID when we bottomed out in that same fib pocket, I remember seeing this, and on the chart right now, it looks like that was about a 2-week move. I can tell you that was not the case. I believe it was a Sunday evening, because I remember watching the chart when we got this, and I'm pretty sure those wicks that went through that whole fib pocket, I think it was like less than an hour or a couple hours or something. I want to say I ended up seeing Bitcoin pump like 40% in like an hour or two. Actually, let's see if that makes sense. Basically right at the weekly close. Yeah, exactly. I remember 40% really jumps out at me. I remember seeing Bitcoin pump very fast from that sort of a thing. And then what happened? Money printer turned on, and we just went absolutely parabolic from there. And I could very easily see something like that happening again if we get to those levels. Okay, guys, I want to be very clear about that one more time. I'm not saying we have to come down to these levels, but if there is some sort of a black swan event, I think it's absolutely possible. And that's off, I know I don't really trade the news and stuff like that. But the chart shows that this is a very realistic possibility, but now we need something to push it there more so. Because like I said, if this was any other time frame, if this was any other asset, that's how I would be looking to trade it. We hit the first take profit of this range. Now I'd be looking at that swing target. And unfortunately, in this case, that is Bitcoin down around 20,000 kind of a thing. Again, does not have to happen, but it is absolutely possible. Oh, MDX Crypto. Nice. Welcome, legend. Love to see you in here. The man, the myth, the legend who created these beautiful, beautiful indicators. Again, guys, if these indicators that I use on these streams all the time, if they do interest you, there is that 10% additional discount down below on top of current promotions. So give that a check if these indicators are something that interests you. Because like I said, I come up with strategies on these all the time. Like I said, even why I was bearish today, right? With the 4-hour, with the auto charting tools, pulled the Fibonacci from said lower high signal. And I do this on the lower time frames all the time. Boom, just a typical Stuber fib setup right there. Beautiful short. And a lot of people are starting to get bullish right into resistance again. And that signal really helped me get into a beautiful position today. Beautiful position. And in true degen fashion, obviously it is 69x leverage. So yeah, I'm at like I think my profit's like 260% or something right now. Is the BTC price going lower soon? Well, I mean, like I said, I am expecting lower prices. I don't necessarily the thing is, I can totally understand why we would bounce. We had a very aggressive sell off. And the thing is, when you get a move like this, if we do end up breaking this structure, like I said, this is the lower high that I'm currently watching. I think it's important the bulls reclaim that before we can get bullish at all. Because again, low, lower high. Just basic structure there. If we end up breaking that, I absolutely think that it's possible we shoot right back up, because we really didn't build any support on the way down. We just straight nuked. That's just a straight up gap to the downside. So there's really not a lot of chop in these areas where we built a lot of structure or anything like that. So, we break this level and absolutely we could just rip back up and I end up stopping out the rest of my position. That's totally fine, because again, that's why I pay myself on the way. I would be so disappointed in myself if I played this and this nuke absolutely perfectly and didn't pay myself at all and we just reversed. I would be a little upset with myself. So, even if I'm wrong on my further targets, I want to make sure that, you know what, even if I'm wrong, I still made good money on this trade. When sideways with no height, you can assume someone is accumulating and someone else is keeping it on level. Those are strategies without leverage, typical those Coinbase guys. So something interesting about, I've been hearing on this weekly chart, for example, here's something that I want to mention, you guys, is a lot of people are saying that since we are basically consolidating sideways, that is accumulation. The thing to understand is, and this will be a lot easier to see if I remove the wicks from my chart, because the candle bodies matter a lot more than the wicks do. But understand that this sideways price action is happening after we lost our uptrend, right? We lost our uptrend. I guess this might look different without the wicks. Well, same thing, right? 786, 886 fib pocket. So we lost that structure. Things just don't look all that good. And the thing is that since we're trading sideways after a structure break to the downside, that's where I'm looking at it as, maybe this isn't accumulation. Maybe this is distribution, especially, like I said, with this RSI. We went from extremely strong RSI, right? I want to make this clear. When the RSI is up here, that's showing a lot of strength because, again, relative strength index. Generally speaking, anytime there's a bull market, the price is technically overbought, right? That's where the parabola happens. We see it all the time on the weekly chart. We're always overbought in bull markets. The thing to understand now is that we dropped out of that overbought conditions. We are losing strength with the RSI. We've broke that bearish structure several times. To me, this looks more like distribution, honestly, and I'm happy to be wrong. Again, we break some of my structure here. I will absolutely be a moon boy just like everybody else. But as it stands right now, I just have to be cautious, you guys. I've had a gut feeling since early June that things were looking rough. And it was basically right around here, I think. Yeah, it was right in here because, well, here, let me just reload the chart. That's easier. But yeah, basically we had this structure break followed by that Fibonacci pullback. And I thought to myself, you know what? If I would short, especially with this RSI divergence, on the 5 minute and the 1 minute, not to say it plays out every single time, but I take that trade setup every single time I see it. Let me repeat that. Every time I see that setup on a 1 minute, a 5 minute, a 1 hour, I take that trade. So to see it on a weekly and people are telling me I had to be bullish and that I was wrong about being bearish, I was like, that's totally fine. But back testing this pattern has made me take it every time I see it. And I don't care what's happening fundamentally, because when I go back and back test in the charts, I also have no idea what's going on fundamentally. All I know is what percentage that target ends up getting hit, right? I back tested this pattern. I ended up getting something like an 88% or 87% success rate when I went back and back tested 3 years of this chart setup. So why would I ignore it on a weekly chart, which should actually be significantly stronger and have more weight carried to it than a lower time frame, which I trade every time, right? So I could not help but get bearish at this level. A lot of people didn't want to hear it, but I did. That's just what happened. Again, that same setup on the 1 hour that I showed you with the RSI, right? Same RSI divergence, same pullback to the 786. And what do you know? We hit the range target very quickly after testing that, right? So I couldn't ignore it on the weekly. I can't ignore it on the 1 hour. I can't ignore it on the 1 minute or the 5 minute. It's just it's honestly my favorite trade setup when all those things align, basically. 1 minute. We're starting to see some color come into these candles, like I said, with my trend dynamic indicator. I have the candle colors inverted. So on the way down, they flip bright green when I think it's, time to buy, basically. We are getting a nice big bullish divergence potentially with the RSI. But again, I don't have a structure break going with that, which is my problem right now, because I'm still looking at this yellow line up here as my lower high. Generally, when I take those Stuber fib setups, I like to see that structure break followed by the pullback. And unfortunately, right now, yes, I would have a pullback. If we did something like pull back to these levels, I would actually consider taking a hedge long if we get down here, just because of the RSI divergence, depending how it looks when we get down there. But honestly, guys, I want a structure break before a pullback. I just can't shake my bearish bias right now, but that is a potential setup for people who are desperate for, something bullish to happen. If we get a pullback with a nice big RSI divergence, I would consider long in it, but just right now, I'm personally not that interested in it. If I would long now, where would I set my stop loss? Honestly, I wouldn't long now. That's just the way I feel on it, because I more so like those tight invalidations. And unfortunately, the tight invalidation for me would be below our local lows here. So again, I'd be looking at more so, I'd at least entertain the idea of longing if we get back down to this area. And my stop loss would be basically below 58.2. I use this 115 quite often as a bit of an invalidation fib, but that's just a ballpark. I always leave wiggle room past that when I take my positions, because quite often it gets hit directly or just wicks very briefly past it, just barely. But that's just kind of a reminder to myself to leave a little bit of wiggle room when I'm entering a position, a little wiggle room on the stop loss, basically. We got a bunch of spam happening now, I think. Oh, well. Guys, if you see suspicious links in the comments, obviously avoid them. Yeah, and that's the thing. Inflation is cooling, says the CPI report, and pushing price way down and keeping it down will bring a nice accumulation for the whales, and them playing and shaking out the small fish. Oh, exactly. That's exactly my point. Basically, is I'm very bullish on crypto as a whole. But I understand that these larger players, they have way more patience than us. They can, they can weather out the storm a lot better. A lot of people who are bullish right now, and that's actually something I want to mention too, right? Is I'm midterm bearish, but I'm very bullish overall. A lot of people who are upset with me right now for being bearish, I would actually argue I'm more bullish than a lot of people like that, because a lot of people who are bullish right now, if Bitcoin does happen to drop 50%, a lot of those people you'll never hear from again in crypto. A lot of those people will totally leave the market because they think the system is rigged and whatever, and it is. But basically, a lot of those people who are bullish and cannot understand the possibilities of bearish price action, a lot of those people won't survive this market because it's ruthless. Bitcoin is very volatile and big moves do happen. Whereas I know for a fact, if my portfolio and my Bitcoin investments and everything drops 50%, and then, it could happen very quickly. I don't think it will very quickly. But if that happens, I guarantee you, I will not once question whether or not investing in Bitcoin was a good idea. I am very bullish on it as a whole. I use it every day. I move it every day. It's, I much prefer it compared to traditional finance. It's just, I'm just open to the idea that, hey, it's a volatile asset. It's high risk. It's volatile. It's still a fairly young asset as well. Not as young as we like to believe it is, but it is. So volatility is just assumed. Honestly, I'm kind of disappointed that such bigger players are getting into the space. I know a lot of people are celebrating, yeah, bigger players in the space. you know, honestly, that's going to tame Bitcoin. We're not going to see the same type of parabolic runs that we used to see, you know, like this type of market cycle. No matter how much money comes into the market, we are not getting that kind of a move again, you know, a 12,000% move to the upside. It takes significantly more money to move the price even similar to last market cycle, because even though the halving happens, and even though there's less Bitcoin being mined, it is still being mined. And there is still constantly more being put into circulation. You know, there's a lot of factors and there's a lot of money in the space, a lot more money in the space. And that means that it takes exponentially more money to move the price. And, you know, something that I don't really like to talk about is, you know, people are talking about mass adoption and, you know, oh, bigger players are getting into the space and we're going to have this wall of money, whatever. Um, you know, what now with Bitcoin's future? The biggest players in the space are starting to get involved. The market is going to get significantly less volatile, in my opinion, in the coming market cycles. But you know what? As a trader, I don't care, because as volatility settles, I can always crank up the leverage. Crypto exchanges love giving you way too much leverage. How am I going to buy high and sell low with this approach? Well, I mean, I guess I won't. As much as I would love to buy high and sell low, I'm going to try and avoid that one. Do I use point and figure charts? I don't believe so. BTC buy the crash. Yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing. I'm still randomly nickel and diming, you know, I'm still buying into crypto. I'm still buying random altcoins and stuff like that on the dips, but just understand that my bearish outlook is more so that I can trade Bitcoin aggressively to the downside as a hedge. So, you know, even though Bitcoin was nuking, you know, 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, whenever we had that nuke down to like 49K, my account grew substantially on the way down. Even though my, you know, spot holdings were taking an ass kicking, my trading account really loved that one. So I love trading the downside personally, because bearish price action typically happens like 3 times faster than bullish. So I mean, as long as you're not scared or too one side minded, you know, there's great money to be made on the way down. Not only that, but making money on the way down just feels special. There's a special feeling to that. But again, like it's not like I'm waiting, oh, I'm not buying anything until 20K because I think we're going there. Because I don't know for sure if we're going there, right? Just basically as we hit important support levels, I'll just buy a little bit. As we hit important resistance levels, I'll start looking for short opportunities. I'm very level-headed going into this market right now. Honestly, I've never felt calmer because I have zero FOMO. If anything, I would say I have a little bit of FOMO for a short right now. Not right now because I'm already in one, but just in general, like when I end up closing a short or it gets stopped out or whatever, I have a little bit of that feeling of like, oh, I really want to find the next short, and I don't really have that on the long side right now. But again, we get some sort of a structure break and that changes everything. I am not glued to my bearish opinion. It's just that seeing it for what it is right now, I just still see bearish structure. I see a lot of reasons why we could go down a little bit. But like I said, if we end up breaking this lower high signal here, I think it's absolutely possible we start targeting, 65 up towards 68K. That would just be the next macro Stuber fib, right? As far as when we really zoom out and look at my market structure for what it is, just like I showed earlier with all those pullbacks, this is just the next one, right? We set a lower low. Let's pull a fib. Boom. There it is. That's why I have that red box there. That's basically my target level if we do end up climbing to the upside. That would be totally normal to hit that level, take out some of those. Oh, right. I changed it to the band. Let's change that back to levels so that we can see. Yeah, basically all these yellow bars, right? There's just some liquidity there. So that is one thing going for the bulls right now. The fact that it does look like there's more liquidations to the upside than the downside. But I think that's just a perfect recipe for, mark my words, if we get up towards this fib pocket again, people will be getting FOMO into resistance again. And you know what? It's absolutely possible we break through it this time. But the last several times that we got that, right, as everyone was getting FOMO and there was events going on and all that sort of stuff, that's right when basically a recipe for disaster, right? And that's basically what I'm going to be looking for. Just like earlier, how I showed that fib I was looking at on the 4 hour, I zoomed into the 1 minute, ended up taking a short on it. Much like if we approach these levels, I'm going to be starting to look for lower time frame structure breaks and Fibonacci pullbacks and stuff like that to start hunting short positions there again, basically. More aggressively hunting shorts and more aggressively trying to catch one that does run for a little bit longer, just because that is more of a macro resist level. Whereas right now, yeah, this was a great short, absolutely dumped very quickly there, played out well for me. But yeah, for all I know, that's all the move had in it. We'll see. Which exchange would I recommend for a US citizen for leverage? I believe there's a link down below for Blowfin, if I'm not mistaken. That's actually where I do most of my trading these days. It's no KYC. There's lots of leverage there. Seems like volume's pretty good. There should be a link down below for that as well. Great stream, mate. Oh, thanks so much. And guys, I want to say right now, thank you so much for everybody who takes part in these streams, comes and is honestly interested in what I have to say. And I hope you guys are learning something. I know my analysis is actually very simple, right? I'm basically looking at basic structure and Fibonacci's, very structured, very level-headed. So I hope you are, taking something beneficial away from these streams. If you do, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel too. I do live streams on my own YouTube channel, but I also do them here. So make sure you're subscribed to both so that you get notified if I am going to be doing streams, because I love looking at these shorter time frame charts. Obviously, I do like to look at my longer time frame charts to get an overall view of the markets. But yeah, I'm more of a scalper. I like watching the 1 minute and 5 minute and stuff. It's more interesting, right? It's happening quicker. But market structure acts the same. That's the thing. A lot of people have a hard time trading the shorter time frames. And I want to make something very clear, you guys. Trading the 1 minute is not for everybody. In fact, I would say most people probably shouldn't do it because, trading shorter time frames, it leads to over trading, revenge trading, over leveraging, all that sort of stuff. And even if you're trying to break even every time on positions, but you're over trading, the fees are killing you and that sort of thing. So I just want to make it clear that trading shorter time frames is not for everybody. Honestly, I think most people should probably trade like the 4 hour or the 1 hour. I myself, like, everybody's different, right? We could have the same trend lines, the same indicators, absolutely everything the same. And I guarantee we would trade the market completely different. So always, do back testing, find out what trade strategies work for you, find out what time frame works for you, because a lot of people make this mistake. I honestly think the reason why most people can't trade shorter time frames is because everyone wants to hit those home run trades. Everyone thinks the big move is around the corner, and the market trades sideways way more than it's actually trending or breaking out, or however you want to look at it. But a lot of people, and I would actually say that, in my opinion, the hardest thing about trading is not finding a position. It's not getting into a profitable position, but actually clicking that take profit button is probably one of the hardest things to do in this market. Greed is a very strong thing, and people would rather just update their stop loss too quickly and too tightly, and then they get stopped out, even if they were right and their move plays out, but then they have to panic and they're trying to get into a new position, but their entries were all screwed up and that sort of thing. And that's why I would rather take profits along the way, so that I can keep my stop loss nice and loose, but I'm still making sure I get paid on the position as it goes. But a lot of people have a hard time with that, and trading the smaller time frames like that can be quite dangerous if that's something that sounds like you, right? That's why, like I said, I love trading Fibonacci's because it's very structured. Hey, here's my approximate entry levels. Here's my target. It's on the chart. It's already laid out, because at the end of the day, like, let's say, I'm really not interested in a long right now, but if we get down to this level and I did want to take a swing at, like, just a hedge long or whatever, entering in this box here and just looking for that target, basically, because in my opinion, when I'm trading, and why I consider myself more of a scalper, is because I like to trade the range first and look for that breakout second. So if this is how my fib is pulled, yeah, you know what? If that profit isn't enough for me, then I'm just trying to play too small of a range. But the fibs are a very good reminder that, hey, if this is where I'm entering and I'm entering based on this range, I want to be taking profits in this range, because there's a chance that we get back to the top of this range and we end up getting rejected and just turn into a rangy market, right? That would be totally normal. And that's why I do start taking profits inside the range, but also why I never close an entire position. Because let's say I did get into that long position, I'd be looking at, closing half my position because the range played out, but then I'd be starting to look for bigger targets and just taking a little bit of profits here and there at what I think is going to be significant resistance. But yeah, definitely what I'm looking at is more scalping. I'm more looking for playing the range for what it is, and from there hoping that the rest of the position runs. It still does look like we're going to come down to these fibs here. Again, I'm personally not interested in taking the long. I'm tempted to take a hedge long, but honestly, right now, I'm just not feeling it. I'm more so hoping that we end up getting down towards my bigger target. Actually, where would it be? I'd actually be looking more for the 786. So yeah, like I said, I think I have some of my take profit orders around 52.5 thousand. So just giving some wiggle room to the fib. I like to front run my fibs a little bit just in case they don't quite hit, and not saying that they have to hit by any means, but that's kind of the target that I'm looking for. And that's where I'd be more so interested in taking a hedge long. Like I said, if either we got some sort of a structure break and a pullback to that level, or we just have a really nice big RSI divergence as we retest that level, then I'll be looking at taking a hedge at those levels. But yeah, right now I think we're right on target to at least come down to these levels here. Do I think the S&P can drag Bitcoin up? It's absolutely possible, but if it's going to, we'll see the structure in the Bitcoin chart do that, right? Like, I'm not going to take a long on Bitcoin just because the S&P is going up, for example, because they don't need to go the same direction. Yes, quite often they're correlated, just like the DXY, right? So often people assume that, hey, if the DXY is dropping, Bitcoin has to pump. Generally, yes, there is a bit of a correlation there, but not always. So just understand that it doesn't have to happen that way. So I would never be trading Bitcoin solely on the DXY. I would consider the DXY while looking for the structure to confirm it on the Bitcoin chart, because at the end of the day, like I said, basically market structure first, and from there I'm looking for the second opinions to validate my theories, right? In the description, there should be a Blowfin exchange thing there. I am looking at it. It says it's just below the cluster of points there. It says no KYC, Blowfin exchange, financial summit promo, 15% cash back on deposit, blah, blah, blah. It should be in the description down below. One thing that makes me think we might not see these levels is just how this RSI is climbing so quickly. So there's a bit of a divergence there. You can see the RSI has broken this level basically. So maybe we bounce here, but again, I'm just personally not interested in longing right now. If anything, I'm just looking at taking a little more profits off of my short if we end up breaking some levels. Like I said, we break this yellow line here, I'll be looking to take a little more profits. Other than that, I'm just going to be chasing the price. As we set lower lows and lower highs, I'll be dropping my yellow line and basically looking to secure some profits when that trend breaks. Or, like I said, we get down here and then I take some more profits down there as well, right? The wife says the 1 minute time frame might suit you. That's a good one. You're just efficient. That's efficiency. What RSI indicator settings do I use? Very, very basic. Basically, I got rid of my RSI moving average, and I basically just took away the background color, and I made the RSI lower band green and the upper band red just so it sticks out. But it's just the relative strength index. That's what the indicator is on Tradingview there. And if I were to take that hedge long at the bottom of this current channel, you mean this channel on the 1 minute here? Basically, I would just be looking at, for Confluence, the RSI, like I said, with a nice bullish divergence. The thing is, if we drop further, I'm not sure if it's going to hold the same divergence because we already kind of came down and tested that level that I would be interested in. What else? If maybe the indicators showing anything. Another sell signal. We have these pivot points, these P's with the X on them. We have downward sloping pivotal points now, so just showing a bit of a trend there. We have this sell signal resistance above us, so there's still pressure to the downside. Honestly, I think before trying to long this market, even at these levels down here, I personally am not that interested, just because I would like to see a lower high broken before pulling back to those Fibonacci's. But maybe if we come down to these levels, we find support, we set a new buy signal, and then a new, let's say a higher sell signal and a higher buy signal, so that, the indicators start trending to the upside, I'd consider that as a little bit of confluence to turn bullish for the short term again. Yeah, right now I'd really have to see how the RSI lines up down here, but the RSI would be a big one that I'd be looking for. But yeah, so far we still have this downward pressure here. I'd at least want to see us break this sell signal, getting above this blue line here. I'd at least want to see us reclaim that. But honestly, at that point, I think we just get a lower buy signal. So even though it's a buy signal, they're still trending to the downside at that point, right? So just something to be a little bit cautious of. Daily close just happened. Yeah, let's check it out. I mean, that doesn't really tell me much, to be honest. That daily close, it just, if anything, I see a little bit of weakness. Because, here we tried to set some candle body support here with that red and that green candle, and notice that we ended up losing that. Our candle bodies are respecting that old support as new resistance pretty much perfectly here. Yeah, it's possible we blast through, in which case, like I said, I think Bitcoin does have some resistance up here. So no matter how you look at it, Bitcoin's just got a lot of work to do for me to get bullish personally. RSI almost seems like it's losing. It's kind of holding on, but it's basically consolidating right below the 50. It's basically right, well, just on the bottom half of the RSI channel here. So I personally only really use the RSI when looking for those big divergences, but yeah, maybe that's something worth noting there. 4 hour, what's the 4 hour looking like? I almost have a feeling we get another big candle like this. It almost looks like a little bit of a bear flag here. Let me, so yeah, there's our low, lower low, and that lower high there, 59,450. I assume that's basically, yeah, that's basically where I had that lower high set on the 1 minute. So yeah, at the end of the day, that's really the structure that I want to see broken before some kind of a pullback. So that's the thing, guys. Like, markets break structure and pull back all the time. And I know it's painful to wait for those opportunities. But it's basically, in these markets, you have to be patient, right? It's very, yes, breakout trades do happen, but they're so much riskier than waiting for those pullbacks. For one, they happen a lot less. And for two, your invalidation of that range is just so much further away. And even if you keep a nice tight stop loss, in that case, if you're playing a breakout, chances are your invalidation level isn't necessarily going to hold. And you're just going to end up, trying to re-enter the trade, re-enter. And maybe instead of just taking one big loss, you end up taking 4 little ones or whatever, right? Just something to be cautious of there. So I personally want to see a break of structure of some kind. We are getting above that sell signal here, but again, I think even if we do end up reclaiming it with a new buy signal, again, it's just lower. And although, yes, it might absolutely play out, it's just a little bit riskier. So again, for me, it's always structure first. After that, I'm more looking at the indicators more so. But yeah, as it stands, we do still have these pivotal points trending to the downside. Just basically, anytime we get some sort of a bullish bounce, I just find that they've been weak lately. Even if they're aggressive, they just seem like they're short-lived. Or as soon as that uptrend loses a high or low of any kind, even on the 1 minute, it ends up creating such a drastic move to the downside. I just feel like there's still a lot of panic in the market. I just feel like there's still a lot of potential downside. Again, I could be very wrong on that. That's why I like trading shorter time frames anyways. But that's just how I feel about the market. I cannot shake my bearish feeling. I will if we see the structure for it, but I just don't see it yet. I'm not scared. I bought big today. Nice. Also got a big bag of whiff. And again, I'm totally not against that idea myself, because I'm still buying things too. Just because I think the price is going lower, I can easily be wrong on that theory, right? So I'm still accumulating stuff when when we come down to these important levels, like down at 52K. Yes, I'll be doing some spot buying as well if we end up hitting those levels. As we hit important support levels, I'm totally willing to buy, even if it's not the exact bottom. My bearish theories more so affect how I'm trading with leverage more than how I view crypto as a whole. One thing to consider for someone like myself who is quite bearish is that the longs have dropped off significantly. Quite often when we get that panic selling, you'll see the market be like 70% long. I know when we had our big nuke the other day or the other week, I think we ended up having, we were like, the market retail was like 76% long or something like that. And that's just so much fuel, so much liquidity for the market makers that, it was almost obvious that those people were about to get absolutely shit on. Right now, we are dropping to a lot more stable numbers. So maybe we do find a temporary bottom here. But again, that's why I've paid myself along the way. And I'm just very comfortable leaving some of my position open because I think it's very possible we target some of these lower levels in the next couple of days. What's the trend master saying? Yeah, like I said, on the 4 hour, we have that lower sell signal. So, and that's also flipped into resistance, right? You can see the price is below this sell signal trend here. Yes, we're climbing towards it, but resist is resistance until it's broken. Got that bearish divergence there. RSI not really telling me anything specific that I'm looking for unless we drop down towards support or these Stuber fibs down here and we have a nice big RSI divergence like that, then yes, that's more so telling me something. But where we are right now, I don't really care about the RSI. Liquidations, I want to turn that back to bands. Notice that, so that's actually even strengthens my theory a little bit. So here we have this sell signal and this sell trend here that flips from pink to blue here. And notice that there would be a perfect liquidity grab right above that. It would make a lot of sense that we would grab some of that average of high leverage liquidity basically would just be up here. Just a nice little liquidity grab, absolutely possible there. Still have that lower high signal. Nothing new there. I would like to see another one of these pivot points come in, a bearish pivot point. Like if we get all of a sudden a P show up, something like that, that would just be further confirmation that, hey, the indicators think that the trend is still to the downside. Might have a new lower high, even though I don't consider it a confirmed lower high. It would still just be, a bearish signal, basically adding to the quiver of bearish signs in the market. Please compare the position today with the positions at these heights before the halving. Honestly, the halving isn't something that I follow all too closely, and I'd have to look up dates and do a bunch of stuff and actually look at it. I don't want to misinform you about anything about that. Although I do think that the halving is one fundamental that actually matters with Bitcoin. Still, at the end of the day, the market can do anything at any time, no matter when the halving is, right? There's so much leverage in the market and so many bigger players in the market and stuff. Like at the end of the day, if the halving is going to matter, we will get a bullish structure break and then the charts will show that. So yeah, sorry. Like I said, I just don't want to give you wrong dates or wrong information on that because it's not something I generally follow all too closely. CME gap around 7,200. I personally don't think we see that. I personally think like 20K would be like absolute bottom of this market cycle. Obviously, again, market does not care what I think. I don't know if that 7,200 CME gap ever fills, to be honest. But we'll see. Isn't there a lot of liquidity higher? Yep, that's what I was showing. Let me just remove some drawings. And with the liquidations levels, or that was with the levels though, that yes, there's absolutely some liquidations up higher. So it's very possible we get up there. But again, I always take structure first, and I'm using indicators and things like that as a second opinion, right? So yeah, I absolutely see reasons why we could go higher, because a lot of that liquidations lands right between my green fibs here, right in my 786, 886 Stuber fib pocket right there. So yeah, absolutely, it's possible we blast through this resistance and go up there. And if that happens, I'm fine with that. I've closed half of my short position or whatever, just because, we got a big move already. And I want to make sure I pay myself on the way down in case I'm wrong. But yeah, it's absolutely possible the market maker pushes us up to these levels. and then, nukes from there. That would just be the same thing that they've done the last several swings. Let me just reload this chart so it's easier to see once again. But yeah, every one of these lower highs so far has been right in that fib pocket. So to see us do the exact same thing and grab some of those liquidations in there, absolutely possible. Um, 64K incoming. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I totally see reasons why we could go to 65 all the way up towards 68. And honestly, our lower high is way up at 70. So there's absolutely room for upside if we end up breaking this resistance, right? Because remember, where this yellow line is here, we did have a little bit of a structure break there, and we did get rejected right at the 786 fib. And on top of that, the auto charting tools did print a lower high signal there. So, yeah, it's absolutely possible we go to the upside. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of red flags. Let's put it that way. Sell signal, bearish divergence, lower high signal, bearish structure break. Yeah, there's a lot of red flags. My thoughts on XRP. My thoughts on XRP is I haven't really been following it. Honestly, I think it had its big hype cycle. Kind of when I got into crypto, I remember riding it from 70 cents up to $3.50, I think it was. And naturally, being that was my first market cycle, I rode it all the way back down to $1 before I panic sold it. So I still did okay on XRP. But I just feel like there's so many, like if I'm looking for a big hype project, honestly, I'm looking at things that are newer, lower market caps. That's already, I don't know what it even is, top 5 or whatever cryptos. If I'm looking at more high risk, I guess, like really Bitcoin and Ethereum is kind of my main holdings. And from there, if I'm looking at higher risk, I'm more looking at smaller market caps and just playing with small amounts with higher risk things. Let's see what it's doing though. I'll take a quick look at XRP and then I have to get going fairly soon. But let me take a look at XRP quickly. Honestly, looks a little weak to me. In fact, I can point out very quickly a Stuber fib, naturally. Notice what happens after, basically got this high. We get a higher high. That would be our confirmed higher low. I know the indicators say it's up here. Either way, how you look at it, we broke that higher low. We broke this higher low. Then what happens? Classic. We pull back to those Stuber fibs. Yeah, actually broke slightly above that, not even close to invalidating it. Just that would have been a beautiful entry, right? Again, laddering in at the 786, 886, that would have been a beautiful short position on XRP as well. And not only that, but the indicators are starting to agree with that, there might be a new downtrend, right? Because we have our lower low followed by a lower high. It's absolutely possible we bounce from here, but something that I'd be considering as far as looking for where to be cautious if it does bounce would be somewhere around here, 63.3 cents down to 62.3 cents. I would expect it to see a little bit of resistance down there if we or up there rather, if we get up there. Liquidations. Yeah, there's a lot of liquidations, both directions. There's liquidity to grab everywhere. We do have a higher buy signal. That is interesting. But again, I'm more so looking at the structure first, followed by the second opinion with indicators. So we still do have that bearish structure break where we set a lower low, lower high. So I would be cautious with that one personally. As far as, tight invalidation, if a person wanted to long this higher buy signal, then, and, we do have this potential bullish pivot here and, maybe stop loss somewhere below this local bottom here. At least it's somewhat tight of an invalidation. I haven't been trading altcoins very much myself, especially with leverage. I've had bad experiences with them just because the trade volume is lower, the order books are thinner. I've actually understand here, guys, just a little lesson in risk management. A lot of people think stop loss is the worst thing that can happen to you. And I basically tell this every stream because I think it's an important story. Everyone thinks your stop loss is the worst case scenario. So if they keep a tight stop loss, they can't lose much money. Here's something that happened to me one time when I was trading altcoins. I can't even remember which altcoin it was, but basically it must have had thinner order books. My stop loss was in a 5% profit on the position that I had. I remember this clear as day. It was an isolated position, which is good. I'll get into that in a second. But my stop loss, I remember seeing it clear as day, was a green plus 5% profit if I get stopped out. That position got liquidated. Okay, it never got stopped out. It got liquidated. My entire isolated margin amount on that position got liquidated because there must have been some sort of crazy slippage. So even though my stop loss was in a profit, I still lost my entire isolated amount on that position, which is another good reason why I never trade with cross leverage, because a lot can go wrong. I don't understand it very well. And it can, as far as I understand, it can dig into other positions and other assets and stuff like that. And it can be quite dangerous. Whereas isolated, at least when I enter an isolated leverage position, I know that worst case scenario, if slippage happens, whatever happens, that's the most that I can lose. And that goes, just a valuable lesson here is, just because you have a tight stop loss doesn't mean you throw bankroll completely out the window and go all in, using or half your account or whatever. Understand that stop loss does not necessarily mean worst case scenario. I just think that's a very important subject to touch on. But yeah, basically that experience soured me a little bit on trading altcoins. And honestly, I kind of look at altcoins as Bitcoin with leverage, because generally if Bitcoin's doing good, altcoins are doing better. If Bitcoin's doing bad, altcoins are doing worse. It's basically its own leverage. So if I wanted that extra risk and that extra volatility, I would just crank up the leverage, and that way I can still just focus on one chart. Especially when you're looking at 1 minute charts and stuff, it becomes a lot to look at several. But yeah, basically with most of these altcoins, you guys, I think basically it depends what's going to happen with Bitcoin in the near future here. I think if something spooks Bitcoin and we absolutely nuke down to those 52 target, 52K or below that, if we start seeing some of my more serious targets, which again, I don't think they're probable, but they're absolutely possible. If we get some sort of black swan event, yeah, altcoins are going to get absolutely hammered. But we'll have to see what happens. As it looks right now, yes, we have a potential downtrend forming on XRP right here. Indicators are still looking fairly bullish on it on the 4 hour, but like I said, structure wise, it doesn't look great to me. Speaking of indicators, I just want to show, so this Trendmaster indicator, I actually have my own preset. So for those of you guys who have these indicators, I actually have my own preset here, Stu Trading. So you automatically get my scalping preset settings, basically. Again, I have certain ways that I look at the indicators and that sort of thing. Like I said, I don't take every signal. I have other things I look for. But just look at how beautiful this has worked as far as the macro time frame. Just look at how well this thing calls the macro of this chart. And this is something that I am going to be watching quite closely if we end up breaking this. But just notice that, okay, since the start of Bitcoin's history, here was the first buy signal. Look at how absolutely amazing. Obviously, this was a different time in Bitcoin's life, but that buy signal, 45x out of that buy signal. This sell signal, some of you may have been around for this infamous descending triangle. I know I was. Beautiful sell signal there, right? Dumped another 50% there. Beautiful buy signal here. Well, this is the only time where the indicator struggled, and this was with that Black Swan event with COVID, because we got that market nuke there. It got convinced that, hey, we're going to start a downtrend there, but then money printer turned on, we got that new buy signal, and then just an absolute beautiful call to the upside there, another 500% signal there. And as well, this last bear market, yeah, it's not going to catch the whole thing, but again, it caught another 50% move to the downside. So generally speaking, these sell signals have been great, as well as these buy signals, right? This bull market as well. Look at this, just absolutely beautiful. Yeah, we have our pullbacks, but the trend continued, and we got a beautiful move to the upside. So this actually has its back testing information on it. You can see this indicator on the weekly has a net profit of 1,400%. So absolutely huge. The current long position, 92%. That's obviously with no leverage, anything like that. So absolutely phenomenal on the longer time frame. So that's another thing, you guys. We are technically trading at support of this indicator on the weekly, but something to consider is, we're starting to hug that level a lot. So yes, support is support until it's broken. But if we do end up breaking this level, that's just, another sign that things are rolling over, and something that could indicate that a much bigger sell-off is around the corner. Just something to consider there. But yeah, again, guys, if you do find these indicators interesting, if you want to try out these MDX ALGO indicators, there is that link down below that gives you an additional 10% discount on top of current promotions at checkout. So again, I use these indicators all the time. Basically, other than the RSI, the only other indicators I use in the market, and I've been using them for about 2 years now. Absolutely love them. Not only that, but look how freaking beautiful they are. They make the charts look fantastic, and just using them to help me spot a trend, which way I should be trading. Like, for example, these W's here, these are reversal warnings. So one way that I love to use them is, once again, using these indicators, not for each individual signal, but actually more so just helping me spot a trend, right? So especially after we have that buy signal there, notice that these reversal warnings, although they are bearish, they're all trending to the upside, right? They're pointing out a very obvious trend to the upside. So that's something I would also be looking for, on the daily, the weekly, stuff like that, is if all of a sudden we see a lower high W come into play, that would just be another big red flag to me that, hey, it looks to me with the indicators, once again, pointing out just a potential shift in trend, just a real big warning, a big red flag to me. So that's something to watch for as well moving forward. So far right now, yeah, Bitcoin's trying to climb. Again, I just can't bring myself to get bullish until we at least break a lower high on the 1 minute. And I guess depending how you look at structure, maybe some people would consider this the lower high of the trend. But just since we have this low here and our only low after that would be down here, highest point between the two, I'm still looking at this as my lower high on this trend. This would change completely if we get, if we end up getting some sort of another lower low and another lower low, then all of a sudden we have new structure, right? Just as it stands right now, this is what I have. But yeah, that's why I say, especially, when I'm talking about, it's more important to be able to react than predict, especially in trading the 1 minute, you guys. You can see a setup, but if you're slow to make your decision or slow to set orders, a minute later that trade may have come and gone. And that's something you have to understand with shorter time frames, right? As you just have to be more picky with your entries, but they happen a lot more, right? So I personally find it easier to be picky with my entries because they happen more. But yeah, as it stands right now, we still haven't broke out of this range at all, and it looks like we're just kind of ranging for now. So Pepe and FTM. Honestly, I haven't looked at those in quite a long time, and I do have to get going here in a few minutes. So yeah, guys, I think that's really all I wanted to go over. See, so we have this buy signal. Yes, it may end up playing out well, but just being it's a lower buy signal, I'm just taking it, taking it for what it is. Yes, it's a bit of a warning that we might continue on bullish, but not necessarily an entry type of a setup for me. So, yeah, I really want to see what happens with this range, basically. Again, not really interested in that type of a setup. I want a structure break and then some sort of a pullback. So if we break this lower high, I would love to see some sort of a pullback down to these levels. But again, it doesn't have to happen. That's the part of trading, right? Is we can't always force a trade is the thing. Like, yeah, I got into the short before, but everything lined up, right? Because we were testing the 4-hour Fibonacci pocket that I saw. As well, we had that little break in structure. I'm in a beautiful short now. Well, I still have half of it running, so I really have no FOMO either way right now. But yeah, we don't always get what we want in the charts. Sometimes we have to wait longer than we want, but forcing trades just gets a little bit dangerous, right? And then we don't have we don't have proper invalidation levels or stop losses. Then we wonder why our stop loss got hit, and then it carried on, and et cetera, right? So all things to consider. Yeah, anyways, you guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys did find this stream quite useful. If you are interested in my favorite indicators in the market, plus access to the Discord, there's an additional 10% discount on checkout using the link down below. And as well, there's that link for a no KYC crypto exchange, Blowfin, down below. Some cool bonuses and that sort of thing with that. So check that out as well if that's something that interests you. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Honestly, this acts as such a good trading journal for me. I like being able to talk through my emotions and see what I'm seeing in the market. Helps me really stick to my game plan when I talk myself through it. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys being here. If you appreciated this content, my strategies, is my approach to the markets as a whole, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you can tune in for the next one. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.